Hello, this is Dale. I'm joined by Mike, and we don't have to struggle for relevancy, do we, Mike?
Um, I thought that's what we were doing. Oh, we're not on the same page, Dale. After a year, we're still struggling.
It's not a struggle.
No, it
Well,
isn't a struggle.
I
Fun and relevancy comes because we're relevant.
I did not act like a journalist today. Uh, we got the clarion call by a fellow that we know. This is about the third time. This is a show about politics, so we'll treat this one gently. He's struggling for relevancy. He believes that he can ride into the White House or wherever he's going on the back of marijuana. There are some marijuana things happening in this area that are hopefully interesting, but it's also part of politics. It's a very important part of local politics these days. It'll be something else next year, but for right now, it's one of the hot topics. He wanted us to come down once again and bring a camera and show everybody what he's doing out in front of the courthouse, and we didn't go. It sort of reminds me of that million-man march that they had in Washington, D.C., where there weren't anywhere near a million
it was
men.
like about 12 people showed up or something. Yeah.
It was a lot, but it wasn't a million. It was like pretty close to 100,000, which is still impressive.
I feel bad about the situation. It isn't that, as you said, that it's not a topic that's relevant. It is, but it's not the only one. And you can't. There isn't one topic that anybody should be. I doubt you're going to get elected being a single issue guy in this town. It's just not going to happen. What issue would it be?
Honesty in government.
Okay, yeah, but that's not really a single issue. It's
a gathering.
That is the problem. But
No.
The closest thing to a single issue would be our relationship with the federal government. ONC and the like. That sort of thing.
That's right. And I think one could go a long way with that.
Yeah,
so
probably.
What happened the first time is one person showed up. What happened the second time, one person showed up. What happened this time is two people showed up. This is not an event. Sorry, one of the things we have to do is we have to define what's an event and what's not an event. That wasn't an event. And I said to the guy, I said, the next time that you do this, get together with a group that also feels the same way and get them all down there. You get a dozen people there. That's not a lot, but at least it comes close to being an event. Well, I don't want to do that. Why not? Well, because they'll get the publicity. That's not going to work.
All right. Good. Well, I think we've...
Okay. Now, here is an event.
Long enough.
Here's an event. This is Congressman Walden at a meeting today. Go ahead, Mike. Show that little photo. It's a small thing.
This happened today?
Well, I think it was today. If it wasn't today, then it was yesterday. But yes, here we go. And okay, this happens so often that it's almost not news anymore. But we do chronicle it. In fact, this photo comes from the Daily Courier. What are we chronicling? This is a U.S. congressman talking about events that are happening on a national scale that affect county business. And who do you see down the lower right-hand corner?
Oh, you're asking me? That's Cheryl.
And right next to Walden's nose?
His nose? Yes. That's clearly Keith Heck.
Right. Now, they are there at a meeting talking with this congressman, or being told by this congressman, things that relate to federal government and county business. Now, it doesn't matter.
I think he's telling him how to toss a pizza dough.
Oh, I think he's telling him how to clap for him later in the...
Okay. Yes, of course.
Now, whether they have it at a pizza place, or if they have it at a Rotary Club meeting, or if they have it at some other private club, it doesn't matter. This happened to be at Three Rivers Medical Center. They cannot, one person, it's so super simple. if you're going to have more than one person, more than one commissioner, only one goes. You can't do it with two. It's state law. Now, you may think state law is whacked out. Okay, you're have your perception, but they're breaking the law. They're not allowed to do it. And it's not just a technicality. It is one of the reasons why we have the problem that we have, blah, 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 blah. I know, okay? It's worth at least noting that there they are once again listening to something having to do with county business, and they're not doing
breaking the law, and they don't care.
Yeah, that's what Keith Heck said 3 times. Yes. I know we're breaking the law, and I don't care. So enough of that. Okay, another small little story. Mike has an interesting photo for you. Tell him this story, Mike. This is interesting.
Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have to can that to bring this up. But it's essentially, I'm searching in the thing for my desktop capture. Okay, I'm in the commercial rental business, so I'm leafing through the things there because I'm going to write up an ad and I want to see what's out there and, do comparison shopping and that sort of thing. So as I was doing that, I came across this ad that is for, they advertised it as a dispensary venue. And I'm thinking, wow, that's kind of weird. I was under the impression that that dispensaries were still frowned upon or illegal here in Grants Pass.
This is supposedly a dispensary venue in Grants Pass itself?
Yeah, here's the Craigslist ad. And yeah, it's not very well it's not good there. Anyway,
we bring you the best video.
Yes, we do. Anyway, it's a dispensary in the downtown, 5-year lease option to purchase. So I had a little chat conversation back and forth with this guy. And I said, looking at an ad that you had for a dispensary in the downtown in Grants Pass, has this been a dispensary before? And I knew that it couldn't possibly be, but I'm just playing stupid, And guy says, not yet, but it would be an ideal dispensary / grow site / IR extraction facility. And I'm assuming that is some of the other products that are made from marijuana, and that would be like oils, CBDs, that sort of thing. And he's, what are you looking for in a building? And I said, no, I was just under the impression there was a dispensary ban. I was wondering if you had a grandfathered situation. And the guy said the ban will most likely end next November, and a private 420 club can start immediately. Private 420 club. What is that? Would that be like everybody pools their medical marijuana situation and somebody grows for them and then is the dispensary to these people?
Well, 420 club refers to it's a term of art within the marijuana smoking community, where 420 is kind of they used to say doobie, or then they'd say somewhat joint or some other kind of goofy thing. As if the police.
Yes, but the point is that the guy is saying that there is some sort of technicality that can be taken advantage of, where you would be able to use this immediately as that type of dispensary. And I'm not sure that they're correct on that sort of thing.
Taking advantage of seems to be the key phrase here, Mike.
Well, they're marketing towards. Yeah. People who they know are looking. Listen, somebody wants to be the guy who gets locked into the downtown dispensary there. There's no question about it that somebody, and we know that some people have been gambling on this sort of thing, because it was that city council meeting the other day with the gal who was trying to get some sort of a variance to shoehorn herself in to that position, which would have been very, very lucrative. I'm quite sure of that. Anyway, so this is the kind of marketing that's going on here in town.
That's interesting. I think that's interesting. Okay, so
it is. I think that you may find yourself leasing this place, spending a year worth of rent in the hopes that you're going to have some sort of an outcome that may not be possible.
Well, how many times do people who are really into buying lottery tickets, how many years do they buy lottery tickets before they strike it big?
Most of them,
the rest of their lives.
Yes, exactly.
Striking it big. They might get back a few dollars, just enough to keep them along. Look, going to say it again. You already know this. You watch this show. You know that Mike doesn't smoke marijuana. Never has. I don't smoke marijuana. I'm not interested in smoking anything.
Yeah, it's not really true. I had some days.
He experimented with it. Can you just see him there with the test tubes?
I did extensive experimentation.
But I'm not interested. I don't want any of these things, okay? But that's not the point. This is a show about politics, and this is, like it or not, this is about politics. And one of the things it's about is very similar to a meeting of the Republican Central Committee. There are certain people who don't like it when they lose a vote, and so they insist, well, you didn't understand. That's not true. It was illegal. That's not true. Well, I'm going to shut down this headquarters because of your vote. Hey, this is America. So you lost. All right, it's a legal product, but it's not quite that simple. One more thing I'm going to add in just before we go to this meeting in Gold Hill. Some of you saw our little promo that we did about what we were going to talk about tonight, and we're getting there. Just relax. And I put it up in a couple different places. Well, the place that I would think in all of Josephine County, I think you'll agree with me, that probably is more interested in marijuana than any other place, Cape Junction, of course. So
I think you might have that impression. I don't know if that's entirely true.
Okay, well, maybe not, because I posted just our little promo. It was a couple of minute promo. We got really good. We got like 3 times as many views as usual on this little promo. And some people thought it was hilarious because it was talking about how the Gold Hill City Council was going full guns and, hey, we've got to stop this. And then they got a little bit of news that made them all stop and go, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't be stopping this. We're going to show you. Anyway, so I got a number of responses from people out in Cave Junction saying, well, you're posting spam. This isn't spam. This is about something that some of you are vitally interested in. And then the one that got me the most was, I don't understand this guy, Dan Mancuso. Dan Mancuso is the publisher of the IV News. And he said, I got it right here in front of me. He said, I said, because a number of people had said, this is egregious. You're just a spammer. You're not, none of us are interested. Well, there were people who were interested, but there's this traveling band of First Amendment thugs that's going around from Facebook site to Facebook site. We've talked to you about this before, saying you've got to ban Dale Matthews entirely because he's putting up stuff that's spam. It's not spam, and there were people interested. And every once in a while, you got someone, God bless them, looks like, hey, this is a free country. Don't look at it if you don't want to. What's the matter with you? We don't want anybody looking at it. Everyone must not look at it. What's up with you? Anyway, so then they move over to this place in Cave Junction. It's same people. And I said, well, look, they said, well, you want to read the rules. And the rules say this page is a community forum, a place for us to share relevant information about the Illinois Valley and surrounding areas. So I wrote, so all you need to show is that, one, marijuana, sorry, too much marijuana. Yeah. Marijuana is not relevant to IV. Gold Hill's policies have no relevance. State rules have no relevance. And Steve Rich, the former Josephine County Legal Counsel, has no relevance. It's the last one. Okay, yeah. So Dan Mancuso comes in and he says, he doesn't answer number one, it's that, marijuana is not relevant to Illinois Valley. He says, it's just unbelievable to me. Nothing Gold Hill does has any impact on Cave Junction in the Illinois Valley. This guy is a newspaper publisher. Nothing, nothing that they do has any relevance.
Well, you know what? There's a group of people, and listen, you know what? I
It includes Dan Mancuso.
Yes, I don't particularly care what side of the aisle you're on. I'm going to slap some truth on you. The left side likes to shut people up and have nobody consume what you're having to say.
Well, if they don't want to read it, if they don't want to watch it, then don't. Even if it's a minute and a half.
But that's not how they are. But that's
they
not
don't
how
want anybody to see it.
They don't want anybody to see it. Listen, the same thing happens in the mainstream media. Do you think that half of the stuff that we do would be consumed by any legitimate media outside of this area? No way. No way, because they just don't do that sort of thing, you know? And I put it in quotes for a reason, because, you know, that they have redefined what that means, you know, to them. They don't want to have certain types of stories that are not going to fit in with a narrative that they're trying to push forward. And William Campbell and his wife, or
oh, she's the one that says, "I'm going to tell everybody how you're funded." We're still waiting.
Yes. I'm really, you know what? I saw one of the Koch brothers, but these guys don't do media, but they were on, this guy was on the Kelly File. No, the Kelly File last night on Fox. And it was very, very interesting. Guy's not an evil dude. You know,
he doesn't seem to be. Surprised me. Sorry. Well, what do I know? He doesn't make any media appearances. People say that he's not a good guy, and so I thought, well, maybe he's not. Well,
you have to be careful about that. You have to be careful about that people say thing. But the thing is that the same people that say that David Koch is a bad guy are the same guys who are going to say, you know, Dale Matthews, we don't want you posting that here. Now, you could, you know, I mean, Dale may be wrong about everything that he does, but he he posts a lot of video that has to do that no one else has. No one else has this
and
video.
Both sides. It's not just one side. Oh, that's political propaganda. How can it be propaganda when we're showing both sides?
You could not listen to a word that Dale says and just watch the videos that have no commentary in it, only showing that the only thing that you could possibly be influenced by is the title, you know? So there's plenty of room in there for you to put your own special spin on whatever you see. And yet you don't want to see any of it. What the hell is that?
And you don't want anybody else to see it. That's just the mystery to me. And this guy's a newspaper publisher. Right. It's very similar to what the Courier said. Watching this show now, because they wrote it before then, watching our videos is a waste of time for everybody. But don't watch the videos.
What you need to understand is that these people are in the business of, they want a certain worldview pushed forward. Okay, so they don't want any other worldviews to interfere with that in any way at all.
This is not the country I grew up in. Okay. I know older people are now saying that all over the place.
I'm just trying to tell you, this is what's going on. And so, see, in their minds, they are super intellectual. They're very smart. They're smarter than everybody else. And so they don't want these other ideas that might take the stupid people off the path to be consumable by them. So they're going to run around and steal newspapers out of, you know,
they did.
You know, I mean, this is the kind of thing that happens. So, or they try and get you banned from a site. Yeah. Which, by the way, I have real mixed feelings about this, because it is totally the right of the owner of whatever page to say, go away, never come back here again. I don't like anything that you say. They can be totally wrong.
But they're caving to this kind of thing.
Stand up on them
and just be a hardy American and say, you know what, you have your opinion. Other people have theirs. I'm not going to be influenced by your sniping at this. Just stop it.
Yeah, listen, I think that the great thing about the Facebook pages that cover this area is
Yeah.
there's a lot of redundancy. Most people that are a member of one group are a member of probably 3/4 of the groups that exist in the county. And so there's a lot of overlap. Perfect example is Josephine County Neighborhood Chat. You go in there, there's like what, 8,000 members to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that's a lot. I don't even know how many people are on Facebook in the county, but that has to be a pretty hefty majority of them, I would
Well,
think.
and it's very popular. And from what I can see, you go there and it has advertisements for haircuts. It's got lost dogs, a lot of lost dogs there. It's
Yeah.
got people complaining about their boyfriend. That's, well, okay, it's not supposed to be news. It's supposed to be just people talking about whatever. Fine, that's fine. But then every once in a while, you got some, I don't like politics at all. Hey,
Yeah.
I don't like kale at all, but so what?
Yeah.
All right. All right.
Anyway,
so what we're going to do
back to
now,
the real news.
Yes, right. As defined by us. We get to do
Yes,
that.
that's right. Yes. Eat this and like it.
Kale.
Yeah.
Okay. So what? Oh, there's nothing wrong with kale. Yeah, that's not what the show is about.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Let's do a whole show about kale. Yeah. Okay. So, oh, come on, Mike.
If you want to nuke what we've done up to now, we'll do a show on kale.
It's politically relevant. Okay.
Yes.
So, trust your politicians. So we're going to play back a meeting, which is a legislative update that applies to everybody in the dang state, by Steve Rich, which is why I brought him up for. It's at the Gold Hill City Council meeting. It was a workshop, so no one can speak. Only they can. And when you watch this, okay, they're kind of low key in the way they present this. This doesn't have a lot of dancing bear. Sorry, not that you need them, but if you watch this and listen to what they're saying, you will be pretty much of a local expert on this issue. That's one of the things we try to do, is we're always talking about when you're talking with your neighbor, for example, and then we're going to play it, I promise.
Thank God.
25% tax, 25% tax. I thought it was 17 plus 3.
Yeah, which adds up to 20. Yeah, I don't know where the extra 5 comes from.
People ask us that occasionally. That's explained here.
Oh.
Okay. What are the dates on the calendar where things are allowed? Not that you're going to do it, but what are the dates? Well, there hasn't been a good explanation until now. That's what's in these clips. Yes. Well, wow. Mike is very excited.
Somebody let us play the clip so we can learn this stuff.
There's that kind of stuff in here and a little bit of low comedy. You'll see. Go ahead and now play it, Mike. Would you please play it, Mike? Come on now. Get around to it, would you?
All right.
I think it was on the 5th or 6th that the OLCC issued their first set of rules. The draft is 70 pages long.
Brother.
Most surprising to me, anyway, in here was the
he can't talk about that. That's a draft.
Home delivery, which was something that initially they said they were not going to do. My understanding is, I wasn't at the hearing in Salem, but my understanding is that there was some pushback on that. And I want to say pushback. I'm going to. That's a sloppy term. But a lot of these provisions are being debated. A lot of them, including that home delivery, don't seem to have the kind of support that they might have originally thought.
Okay, now this is brand new. No, nobody's heard this before, not that I know of. This is so brand new that when he was saying this, they had just decided that a couple of days ahead of time. So it is an update. This is a legislative update on whatever. This case, it has to do with a fairly large business opportunity in our area and all over the state. We are the center in Oregon for growing this stuff, right? There's 3 places, Maui probably, Humboldt County, California, and here. That's it.
Yeah, I think you might be underplaying that a little bit. There's, I think, a lot of other places where marijuana grows just
quality,
fine.
yeah, well, of course,
Yeah.
but for quality, for the kind, well, it's like you can say, well, Cuba's not well known for cigars, really. There's something.
Right. Okay. All right. Dale apparently is an expert on marijuana.
Oh,
And
no.
hey, let me ask you: when did Steve Rich grow out his little ponytail? There was that. What did he have that when he was here?
Always had one. That's right.
Oh,
And did you know that he had been moonlighting for years while he was Josephine County legal counsel for Gold Hill?
Yeah, I don't remember him on that series.
Yeah. Okay, next.
The sale of medical marijuana continues under the provisions of the Early Start program set out in Senate Bill 460. Retail sales of recreational marijuana can occur in a dispensary that's licensed by the Oregon Health Authority. OLCC has not started doing that yet, as I understand it. So they're specifically designed the Early Start program to allow for the legal sale of recreational marijuana through medical dispensaries.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty important. Okay, so there's two organizations, Oregon Health Authority and the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, and they're saying you will be able to sell, or you can do it now. They will be able to sell recreational marijuana, adult marijuana is also something they call it, only through licensed medical marijuana facilities. And then for right now, it's under the control of the Oregon Health Authority.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what we're trying to give you here is a primer about what the rules are, so that when your neighbor or somebody else says, you can say, oh, well, yes, that started a few days ago, and it also may include home delivery. You're going to look brilliant.
Yes, you'll be, yes.
That's what we try to do, give you the tools. Next.
One of the other things that was a surprise to me in the temporary rules, and let me back up just a second and preface that the recreational marijuana is, of course, under the regulatory authority of the OLCC. Medical marijuana is under the Oregon Health Authority. And so there's these two sets of rules that don't always overlap and don't always, in my opinion, mesh real well together. But it was always, by many of us in the legal field who were watching this develop, it was an issue, but I think the consensus was the thinking that these things would be allowed to be jointly located.
Jointly.
And that is apparently under the OLCC tentative rules, not contemplated by the tentative rules. In fact, they would not be allowed to do that. So that may or may not change also.
Now, don't think that I can take this thing and cut it into little parts and make it terribly interesting at every moment. That's just not going to happen. That's not the kind of guy that he is.
But there was a little tidbit in there. By the way, I could tell that he is breaking the law all the way through this entire episode here, because I noticed the sign on the wall behind him that says all unnecessary loud noises will not be prohibited. Prohibited. Anyway, it appears that yes, thank you. That the Breeze Botanicals thing is not going to work as being medical, and that's not going to work.
Yeah, she's sitting right behind me, and during the meeting a couple of times he says, well, I don't know the answer. Maybe she can answer the way she's.
Was she the one crinkling her drinking water bottle?
Would you think that you could get, maybe somebody's got the munchies? That was not the problem. There's a third grader sitting next to me who probably thinks, no problems, and he's crunch the whole time, and keeps kicking the bottom of the camera. He's a super kid, but He's not in
Yeah.
control of what he's doing.
What is he doing? I mean, somebody drug him to this thing.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And the person that brought him was his mother, who's dead set against anything having to do with marijuana.
Oh,
Nothing.
yeah. So let's just expose him to the rules about it, you know?
Yeah, that can't be very interesting. I'm not sure it's terribly interesting to you, but you're going to be educated on this. So yeah.
Whether I like it or not.
You will be educated people. Okay, go.
What I wanted to do in my conversation was with Rick, was to be available to council on a range
for a nominal fee.
Different subjects
that
we've already addressed individually about what the city still retains as options.
He's still retained by the county as a lawyer.
Yikes.
Taxation of medical, in my opinion, which is authorized because it's not precluded by statute. That's my position. It's the position of the Oregon League of Cities and many of my counterparts in different jurisdictions, as opposed to recreational marijuana, which I think the consensus is that clearly the intent was there to preempt local taxation, but for the statutory procedures that call out a 3%, if that's approved, out of an election in November 16th. So, it's very, very wide spectrum of issues that we had on the table, and I'm going to try to answer whatever your questions might be as the council moves through trying to sort through the policy decisions that are going to be made in the future by the council.
Now, this is a legislative update on a show about politics. Mm-hmm. That's why we're showing it to you, Mike.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm some of this is filtering, through my disinterestedness.
Right. No, I understand. We're not marijuana users, but we are interested in politics. Next.
Well, and this is gonna be relevant everywhere else because he's talking about statewide legislation and what is the latest current thing on it. So it's really relevant everywhere.
No, Gold Hill has no relevance according to the editor of the newspaper. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, listen, that's what he wanted to say. So he didn't bother to play the video and go, oh, okay, yeah, I see where that is. He didn't bother doing that. So,
no one in Cape Junction is interested in marijuana. What's the matter with you, Mr. Matthews? You obviously don't understand economic development.
Right.
I was asked a question by Rick about can the early sale of recreational marijuana through the dispensaries that are licensed by the OHA, can those be basically turned off at this point in time or post October 1? And it is a position of the Oregon League of Cities that, yes, you can do that. You can, even now, by adopting an ordinance under the provisions of Senate Bill 460, preclude early sales. And I'll just read you a note here in the League of Oregon Cities publication, and we talk about this very subject. It says, although cities may continue to opt out of early sales by adopting local ordinances, they are not required to notify the Oregon Health Authority of their choice to ban. Under the rules, the OHA will prohibit retail sales from dispensaries located within the jurisdiction of a city or county that has adopted a ban. Additionally, the rules state that the OHA will deny applications by facilities located within a city or county with an opt-out ordinance. The rules also provide that the OHA may enforce an early sale ban adopted after October 1, 2015 by revoking a facility's registration and or imposing civil penalties of up to $500 per violation per day.
Really?
They go on to point out that even though notification is not required, they encourage you to do that, to let OHA know. And of course, this is distinctly different than the prohibitions that are allowed under House Bill 340, because those have to be referred in Jackson County. They have to be referred to a vote of the people that would take place in November of 2016.
Now, speaking of vote of the people, this city council, a couple of meetings ago, already said that Breeze Botanicals, she's sitting right behind us, Breeze Botanicals is okay and that they're not going to have a sales tax on them. They said the reason they wanted the sales tax was they were sure that they need to have special law enforcement officers because it was going to be a madhouse and because there was going to be all kinds of problems. Then they came to a meeting and they said, you know, it's not been a madhouse. There's not been problems. It was supposed to be 12 months, ended up being 14. Let's do it. And so they erased it. And then apparently they got a lot of community feedback from people who don't like the idea that it's a legal product, a legal cash crop. It's legal. And so since then, people who have come to speak on this have been shut down, and they spent all of their time talking about, well, can we make rules to stop it? Can we make rules to cut back on it? Can we make rules that will make it difficult for them to do business? Nobody's talking about, well, why don't we encourage a legal cash crop? Nobody's talking about that.
Well, listen, in the minds of many people, we don't want them dopers hanging out around here, you know, and listen, whatever, this is a country. I mean, you heard him saying that, there is going to be variance on these sort of things for cities and counties that have opt-out ordinances. Yeah. Which would mean that we're opting out of the legal, you know, we're not having dispensaries. In other words, I don't think they can do anything to stop, you know, people from having their statewide legal amount of marijuana on their persons or whatever. Right.
Well,
anyway,
the county commissioners have already started talking. They've been talking about it for a couple of months now. We can regulate. We can do it through they get excited on this aspect. We can do it through the zoning rules. Yeah, we'll make it almost impossible for them to do this because of zoning rules. Everybody's talking about zoning rules now. Oh, well, I don't talk about being inside of a school. Okay, inside. No, we're going to make it so that it's going to be almost impossible for people to do business with this legal crop. I don't want the crop. But what are you doing? This is politics again. Go ahead, play the next clip.
So if the council set the policy to ban recreational, sale of recreational, that ban could be in effect up until December 31st, 2016.
Not for recreational. For recreational, you would have to adopt an ordinance that would ban that until, and that would be November. I don't remember which Tuesday it is.
Yeah. November 8th.
The first Tuesday after the first Monday on the the election date in November of 2016.
But the ban could go all of 15 and 16.
Well, the balance of 15 through 16 until the election. If your election doesn't pass, you know, then it would not. You know, it would the ordinance would become effective, and I'm confusing the ordinance would ban. So a yes vote would be a vote to ban. So when I say if it survived, it would continue on past that election date. If it didn't, then it would not pass. The ban would not be in place, and it would be off.
And what if there was no vote at all?
If there was no vote at all, then you would have recreational and medical sales. If there was an adoption of an ordinance that was referred, there would not be any early recreational sales, but there would still be medical marijuana sales. Because, Bill 3400 and 460 both don't really relate to medical marijuana, except as it calls out a medical dispensary licensed by the Oregon Health Authority can sell the 4 products that are allowed for the retail sales through the medical dispensaries.
Now, because this is a show about politics, it's important to understand in Josephine County, Mike, do you remember when the vote was taken, the statewide vote, Josephine County's numbers were very clear. Do you remember how much it lost by?
Yeah, I think it was 1 vote, wasn't it?
2 votes, not 2% now.
Yeah.
2 votes. Now,
Yeah.
in anybody's dictionary definition, except for Cheryl Walker.
That's a pretty even split.
Even, yeah, I would think so. Now, if it's a case for government to look at something and say, we must regulate this now, I think, like in baseball, tie goes to the runner, buddy. I mean, whether you like it or not, it is a statewide law now, and even locally with, we hate this, 2 votes, you guys.
Yeah, right. And so, yes. However, I don't think that this will stop people from doing exactly what he's talking about there, and that is you come up with an ordinance that just the people on the council or on the board vote for, and then that's temporary until it gets voted on in 2016. And
did you report a couple of Josephine County people that say that vote was illegal? We didn't understand it. We're going to shut down your city council. Whatever they need to do to negate your vote. I think this is a clear case of step out of it. You don't like it? Sorry.
Yeah.
But the people have voted.
Yeah, I generally agree with that. I think that obviously there has been some pushback with the legislature, and they are coming up with these little compromise things about it. Like you can have this, you can vote and have an ordinance that says no recreational sales, and that will buy you a year. And if I'm getting sort of the feeling of what's going on, they obviously called this guy in because they wanted clarification on exactly this thing.
Most of the meeting was about what can we do about this? How can we slow it down? How can we stop it? I would say you shouldn't be even trying to do that.
Well, they've been experiencing it ever since October 1st.
Yeah.
In Bree's shop there. And so I'm wondering if they're seeing, a great uptick in crime and drug infested people and
no, not in talking with them about it. No, not that. But what they have done is they've gotten a number of very vocal people who didn't like the way that vote turned out. Sorry, it's the country we live in. I'm not a consumer, but I mean, they didn't like it, and they've been inundated with all kinds of, well, you said that it was okay for them not to be taxed. You're the only one in the whole state that was taxing them.
Yeah. So what did Bree have anything to say about where she was the other night?
She did say something to me. She said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I hope you can forgive me." And I said, "Well, we did the show without you, and we did really well. And we kept asking you questions, and you weren't answering any of them."
Yes, that's right.
She laughed. Well, I was trying to ease it a little bit because, you get one chance. Sorry, if you blow us off at the very last moment. Okay, whatever, it's our show. Okay, next clip, please.
And we could also not ban it and still take it to the voters. Take it to.
But in the meantime,
I'm not sure I understand that
I
because,
mean, we could put it on the ballot with or without banning recreational marijuana at this point.
well, my question to you would, why would you do that?
It's vintage Steve Rich. Absolutely. Why would you take it to the voters? You have all the power. Why bother yourself with what the voters say?
Perhaps I misread what he said. I thought what he was suggesting there is, why don't you do that? Why don't you put the ban in place? And then, that was my reading of that. Maybe I'm wrong.
She was saying, we don't need to what if we don't put the ban in place? Okay. We could still take it to the voters and we could get back feedback from the voters about what they want. Then they would have some legitimacy other than just a few people in a room. And Steve Rich is answering, I don't know why you would do that.
Well,
That's
no. Well, here I don't read it that way, because what he said was the only way that you're going to ban recreational, period, is if you pass this ordinance and then wait until it's on the 2016 ballot and then it gets voted on. That's the only way you're going to pass that. That's the only way you're going to be able to do that. If you don't do that, recreational is legal now all the way up until then, but then you didn't put it on the ballot either. So now it's not going to be, you're going to have to, in other words, it seemed like that there was a prerequisite requirement, and that was putting the ban on now.
If your thought is you want to ban this, you can ban this right now without getting any input at all from the public, at least not in a vote. Okay, so do it. Except I'm a person that's in favor of asking the citizens what they want, because you're not the imperial court.
Right. Yes. But I think that's what he's suggesting, is that he's saying, why wouldn't you just, go ahead and put this ban on, and then, because she was talking about, not banning it and then having
because you don't have the support of the people. That's the way I interpret it. Of course, it's different worldviews. It's okay. You could be wrong. Okay, let's play the next video.
One of these frequently asked questions.
Oh, this is the big one.
If my city adopts a ban under HB 3400, will it still get a share of state marijuana tax revenues? And the answer to that is no. A city that adopts an ordinance prohibiting the establishment of medical or recreational marijuana business is not eligible to receive the distribution of state marijuana tax revenues. The point that needs to be made, and that's significant.
There's been a lot of policy discussions around the interplay between and in some of the other jurisdictions that I represent, people who are just very vocal and opposed to the idea of people using marijuana will also in the same breath say, but that decision has been made. And they decided 60% or 58% or 63% that they're going to do it. And now my responsibility is to be responsible and say, how are we going to make that happen? And, so they have elected to not ban it. And I can understand people making the opposite policy choice, but that is certainly one that I've seen made a number of times where people say, I think it's a bad idea, but it's become the law, and we're going to address these issues that need to be addressed. And, the mayor and I have talked a number of times about my own personal bias is that the legislature rushed to do a job. I know that there's going to be continuing bills that will come out next year. There'll be modifications to the rules during this year and until we get a further down the track, you're gonna have tweaks and changes as people identify problem areas and say, oh, I didn't think about that consequence, or we didn't address this. But the decision, like I say, in a couple of jurisdictions where I represent have said there are problems, but we're gonna address them and move forward with it rather than ban it. And part of that is because of the tax.
Yeah.
They want to participate in the revenues. That's just the nature of the beast.
Okay.
Gotta stop them dead in their tracks there, Mike.
Well, you know what? I think the money from this is a very strong appeal, and it's going to be difficult for people to. Well, wait a minute. If we ban it, then we don't get any of the money that's being collected on this thing, and it's like, and
But
I
we're
would
doing it for
imagine
moral reasons, Mike.
Yeah, well, I don't hear him talking about moral stuff here. All I hear him doing is, that there may be some of that where they are thinking that it's immoral somewhere in the background, but they're not talking about that here. They seem to be going, well, what are the ins and outs of this thing?
Well, he just said that there are a number of people who don't want anybody smoking marijuana. They're not worried about themselves. They don't want anybody out there smoking marijuana. He just summarized.
And listen, I'm sorry if you're one of those people. That ship has done sailed. It sailed well before there was medical marijuana allowed here. If it were punishable by a year in prison, there would still be people out there smoking it. So,
there have been in the past. I'm not one of those people, but still, a vote was taken.
Yeah, it's a done deal. Just get off of that. Listen, how do you save yourself from the evils of alcoholic beverages? Don't drink them.
Don't consume them. And tell your kids not to consume them.
Right, exactly.
I'm going to stop my neighbors from consuming them.
Yeah,
I'm going to stop my neighbors from watching a video I don't like. Hey.
Yes, you know what? And listen, there may be, and you may be completely right about your moral objections to marijuana. But we are living in a free country where you can do that sort of thing. I mean, if everything were set up as the founders had envisioned it originally, you might be somebody who's smoking this stuff, and people would shun you as a moral reprobate, perhaps, but it wouldn't be illegal,
Yeah.
So, listen. That's you just need to move along with that one because it's
okay. We got two more little clips. Here's a reiteration of what he was just saying in slightly different language. Go ahead.
I know that there's an early start provision for 25%, and I've heard that the rationale is that that's to cover the startup period when there is no tax, and then they're going to dial that back down to as the different classifications of licenses get to the point where they're retailers. And my understanding is right now that those dates are projected dates about when those, it'll start when it starts. But I can tell you if it's banned, it's not going to start ever, or at least until there's further changes in the law. And remember that the first year's distribution is different formula for the distribution than thereafter. And the thereafter is going to, just like any other kind of a sales tax, it's based on the sales in your jurisdiction. Or at least that's how I'm understanding the statute.
So the people that are selling recreational marijuana right now are paying 25% tax?
I think that starts in January. But the theory for the 25% is because they're not being charged any retail tax right now.
That's
They put a tax-free holiday until January 1st.
Right.
And then they impose a 25% sales tax on the recreational being dispensed from medical facilities. And then the 17% will be applied to OLCC licensed
Right.
facilities when those go online.
And that's just on the retailers, right?
That's just on the retailers.
Right. And we talked about that earlier because it's not like a value-added tax where each step gets taxed. You don't tax the grower, then the processor, then the wholesaler, then the retailer. It's just at the end of the chain, the retailer pays the tax.
Now, this thing about taxing each step of the process was a suggestion that Cheryl Walker made. In Cave Junction, go think, they're not interested in marijuana, but she did suggest that there. And then later said, oh, I never suggested that there. Now we have it on tape.
Well, value-added taxes are something that they do over in Europe, and they just love them because every single step of the process, I mean, it makes the retail cost, probably 30-40% higher than what it should be, just based on the fact that it's getting taxed at every stage of modification, and that is that's just crazy.
Well, she got such flack back from that she decided to deny that she ever said it. Sound familiar?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay, one last minute. You are going to be the life of the party. Depends on what kind of party. If you can explain to people what you just watched there about the 25%, because nobody here in this area, except for you guys and us, can explain that, or we're able to.
And by the way, what is a tax holiday about? You pay nothing now, but to make up for the time when you weren't paying anything, we're really going to nail you from the first until whenever. I mean, that's not a tax holiday. That's a tax deferment.
This is not encouraging a legal industry either. It's legal. We want to make it legal so you'll pay taxes, so you'll join the rest of the community, so we don't have to throw you in jail for this thing. Yeah. And so please welcome it, but we're going to put a 25% tax on you.
Yes,
and you can't put any of this in the bank, and you can't report it to the IRS. And
yes,
okay, another thing, I need to remember to do this before I forget. One of the people during other parts of this meeting and afterwards, out in the parking lot, so many things happen out there. Someone was saying, "Well, this was at a meeting of the Grants Pass City Council." And I told them about this. I said, well, one of the fellows from the Grants Pass City Council was saying, what's really too bad about some of the industries here in Josephine County, and they may just need to leave the county, is they don't seem to be able to hire people that can pass a drug test. Really? Nobody? Yeah, just don't seem to be able to do so. Here's a question for you. This is something you probably haven't thought of. Can you guess what I'm going to say? No, of course not.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I can. As a matter of fact.
Go ahead.
It's because of the fact that this is a legal product like beer, there's going to have to be, companies, and many companies have already addressed this. They say, we don't want it. We're still going to, can you if we pick up that you have been smoking marijuana. The difference between alcohol and marijuana is marijuana stays in your system for 30 days. Okay. Marijuana or alcohol, 12 to, 16 hours later, it's out of your system.
Even faster if you drink a lot of water. I know.
Right. Exactly.
I went to college.
Yes. So it's one of these situations where I suspect there will be legislation down the road that says, hey, listen, since this is now a legal product, how about lightening up on or they'll come up with some sort of a test that is able to tell if you're high right now.
Yeah, because the question is, if you're going to hire somebody in a medical marijuana dispensary or a recreational place,
I doubt those people.
Are you going to insist that they have to pass a drug test?
No, of course
they haven't used it in the last 30 days?
That would be very bizarre and would make news. I'm quite sure of that. But
as Steve Rich said, there's going to be questions that come up that we never thought of. Here's yet another question that nobody thought of. I just think it's funny, and I wanted to end on a slightly funnier note, if that's possible.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Should I play the button?
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the land use issues that I'm plugged in on because of being a planner is the fact that these codes are requiring site obscuring fencing. But the height of the site obscuring fencing violates the fence laws
Oh, yeah.
in, you know,
Exactly.
in every single city.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
We're supposed to do
So
that.
how is it that you keep the spirit of this law to have site obscuring fencing, and then you have a city code that doesn't allow anything higher than 6 or 8 fence based upon your land use laws for your community?
Well, and also, how are we going to enforce that? Having no police.
What was land use is planning?
It's planning.
Yeah. Yeah, that's silly. That's silly. But you know, listen, par for the course, I guess, as this thing has gone.
If we can't do it legislatively, then we'll just change the land use rules. That'll make it impossible
Well,
for them to do business.
And as the gal said, you know, I mean, how are we going to enforce this? We don't have any police here,
They don't.
you know. Yeah, and they probably, well, you know what, that would probably, you know, I would imagine that when people want to get building permits for certain things, they go to Jackson County and pull their permits there. And so that would be the enforcing authority on this sort of thing. I would imagine that there's going to be a rash of people. And if you don't have a neighbor that is into calling you out on every single thing, you're probably not going to have a problem. If you're living next to a busybody who can't stand it, that, you know, he's measured your fence and it appears to be a 1/4 inch too high. If you live next to one of those, you know, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Those, you're going to be dealing with, you know, issues.
So we have brought you the legislative update that's really up to the last couple of minutes or last couple of days. And so now you're educated on this subject, even if maybe you didn't want to be, you're still here with us. Yeah.
I think that addressed some of the bigger questions. You know, the taxation, this issue with the 25%, the confusion about that. Wait a minute, I thought it was 17 and 3, which only adds up to 20. What's the 25 about? And so the only thing that we don't know is the 25 starts at the first of the year. How long does it go till? And you know, I mean, none of this is going to impact me, but all of these people who are going to be adding up all the new revenue that they're going to be getting in their town, that is relevant to them. So this would be an interesting thing to find out. The 25%, what's the breakdown on that? Is it still 3% for the locality and the rest of it goes to the state?
Oh,
How's that work?
I think it's all collected by the state, and then they decide. I'm not sure they made any decision about how to divvy it up. Maybe they won't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've done the best that we can to clarify some of this. You're a better educated consumer. Oh, not consumer, a better educated voter. How about that? And we're watching what they're saying in nearby areas where somebody from this area is actually giving them advice. He's still on retainer to Josephine County. And so now you've been told. That's what we try to do on this show, is tell you things. Despite the fact that we've got some people that just hate that. They hate that. Well, I like it. Mike, thank you for joining everybody here and trying to shed a little light on this and a slight bit of lightheartedness. Good night, everybody.